Evening everyone, happy Wednesday. How is everyone? Give us a wave. Love that. So guys, this is another Insta Live, and this time it's going to sort of drop down the pyramid, so to speak, in non-league football. So we're actually going to talk to Step 6 manager of Buckingham Athletic, Scott Reynolds, shortly. So I'm just going to introduce him, invite him obviously into the Insta Live tonight, and we'll crack on, everyone. I hope everyone's good. It is hump day after all, isn't it, being Wednesday? So let's just try and get Scott straight into the game. I'll see if it's first time lucky. Look at that, first time. That didn't take long at all, did it? Good evening. You are clearly a pro at this, Scott.
Not so much a pro, mate, but yeah.
So obviously, thanks for doing this tonight, Scott. I know we had a bit of a fright this morning, didn't we? Because we had to put the feelers out online to basically say to everyone it's been postponed, but an hour later it's back on.
Yeah, sorry about that, mate.
That's all right.
Something came up work-wise, and had to move a few things around.
That's fine. It's life, isn't it? Unfortunately for all of us, especially in non-league football, isn't it? As you just said, sometimes work takes priority over things. So anyway, everyone, if you haven't watched these before, so my name's Carl. Obviously, this is Scott from Buckingham Athletic. So the Insta Live's usually about sort of 30 minutes, 35 minutes. We just generally have a bit of a chin wag, really, talking about football, non-league football, and obviously tonight talking about the man himself, Mr. Scott Reynolds. So, Scott, the last game, obviously it wasn't that long ago, was it? What's your sort of take on the result? Obviously it was 1-1 against a very strong Amped Hill side, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was probably a fair result come the end of the game. We were disappointed, particularly at half-time, not to be in front, because we definitely started the stronger side, created 3 or 4 really good opportunities, and unfortunately it's been a bit of a story of our season so far, to be honest. We tend to create lots and lots of chances, and on too many occasions come away with not enough goals and not the ability to kill teams off. But we were pleased with the point come the end of the game, because Amped Hill, as you say, come out really strong in the second half. They were 9 games unbeaten and therefore 10 on Saturday. We beat them away, so to take 4 points off them over the season is quite a good return, considering where they are in the table in comparison to ourselves at the minute, and obviously what their aspirations are for the season. So yeah, it was a difficult one because the wind was blowing a gale, which is typical. Yeah, really nice all week, nice weather all week up to the weekend. We didn't have a game the week before that, so we're all looking forward to it, and then wake up on Saturday and all you can hear is the wind outside the bedroom. So that made it more difficult than we thought it might be. But yeah, and typical February pitch as well, a bit sticky and all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, it was a fair result, I'd say.
Talk us through Ollie Power's goal, because I know there was certainly a video of the goal, courtesy of Luke from Sport Shots, floating around online. So I think it got quite a few hits, didn't it?
Yeah, we're quite lucky with the coverage we get from Sport Shots as well. So it was a typical Ollie Power goal, really, to be honest. Ollie is a young lad. He's 17 years old. He's a product of our youth.
Wow.
And he's been brilliant this year. He's one of the most hard-working players in our team. You know, at the age of 17, he's one of the more mature players in our team as well, to be honest, in the way he looks after himself and the way he prioritises his football. And he's just a real tenacious lad. We said to him before the game that, you know, making sure he knew that their goalkeeper was left-footed and good on his left foot was something that we wanted him to understand, and that when he was going to go and close the goalkeeper down, he needed to make sure he showed him onto his right foot, and we thought we'd get joy. And that's pretty much what happened. I mean, there was an opportunity in the first half where he went through just to shut the goalkeeper down and showed him onto his right side and ended up clearing the ball out of play. And then in the second half, the goal came from a defensive clearance, really. Bit of a mix-up between their defender and their goalkeeper eventually, but Ollie just put so much pressure on and gave it such an effort to get there he got there first and was very, very calm once he got past the on-rushing goalkeeper to put the ball in the back of the net. But yeah, really good goal, and one of a few good ones that Ollie scored for us now. I'll say 17 years old, coming to the first team from absolutely nowhere, where we lost players earlier in the season to clubs a bit higher up the chain, and he's been brilliant for us since he's had a run of games.
Yeah, what's amazing is I didn't realise he was 17, Scott. So for a lad at 17, step 6 non-league, and he's currently joint top scorer at the club. That is unreal. What a future that young man has.
Yeah, absolutely, and he'll continue to score goals for us because I'll keep playing him. If he keeps working as hard as he is, and his attitude remains the same, and it can change quickly for young lads, but I don't for one second think that Ollie's that sort. He'll continue to score goals for us. We play in a way that suits him. He's got a lot of pace, an eye for goal. He's left-footed as well, which makes him a little bit different to some of the other players in the final third for us. And yeah, he's just a really, really good kid and a good footballer. So he's got a big future, I agree. And yeah, hopefully a lot of that can be playing under my management and for Buckingham. But he'll definitely go on. He'll definitely go on to play a lot higher, I'd have thought.
I was very pleased to have that feedback from any manager, and I'm sure he'll appreciate hearing that, Scott. So obviously that result against Ampthill, nice mark by the way, love that. Gooners. He snuck that in.
Had to get that one in.
We didn't plant that, everyone, honest. So that result obviously leaves Buckingham at the moment 8th from the table.
Yeah.
But it's a bit odd, isn't it, the Division 1 and the Spartan this year, because some teams seem to have played a ridiculous number of games, and yet, unfortunately, you guys, because I know you had a few games called off because of weather and things like that over the winter period, Scott, where you've got like 3 or 4 games in hand over some teams above.
Yeah, we have, mate. And earlier in the season, it was actually us that had played more than most. And the last few weeks, it's kind of gone the opposite way. Like we've played, I think we've played 2 games in January. Like we didn't have a game last weekend. We haven't got a game this Saturday. And then, like you say, if you look at the league table, we're 8th with games in hand on all of the 5 teams currently above us in the table. Personally, I would much prefer points on the board. I've always been that sort of manager. You can't guarantee you're going to win your games in hand, but it's a nice situation to be in. We've got an opportunity, I'd say, to sneak 4th or 5th place if we win the majority of our games, but we would need to win most of them because obviously there's a lot of other teams going for the same thing. So it keeps the league interesting though for a long time. I mean, normally at this level, obviously you get your champions and your runners up get promoted, and the rest of the teams sort of die off towards the end of the season. But with the playoff possibilities for so many teams, it just means that the longer the season goes on, the more interesting it will get for such a volume of teams. And we firmly believe we're one of the sides with a chance. But it'll take some doing. But we're confident if we can get on a run. A run of games would be good, but obviously a run of wins is the most important thing. Then we might just sneak 4th or 5th place, but there's a long way to go yet, mate.
Yeah, it is obviously, we're still in the start of February, and as you say, you've still got quite a few games to play. But obviously, on recent form, you guys are undefeated in 3. And as you say, the table, you've got there's two big boys up top, haven't you, in Stockfold and Winslow, 2 very well supported clubs, very established non-league sides. And then you've probably got, from looking at the table, I think you probably look at 7 teams trying to fit into 3 places. Yeah,
that's exactly it. And I mean, we've played Stockfold twice and lost twice. We lost badly at their place. I think it was in September. It was right at the start. We had a really, really mixed side that day, real young side that day, and we got bullied, to be honest, but they beat us comfortably. Right. And then we played them at home just before Christmas, missed a penalty at 0-0. If we'd have gone 1-0 up, we might have had a chance to win that game. But we conceded at the end and lost 1-0. And to be fair, I've said to a lot of people, and inside our club as well, that's where we fall short in comparison to those top 2 teams in particular. They have just got that cutting edge on us. They've got 1 or 2 real strong players that are playing way below their level, and that's a big difference. And we played Winslow a couple of weeks ago, and we lost narrowly 1-0 there. personally, I'm not happy with some of the decisions I made that night in terms of team selection and things. I think we could have done things a little bit differently in hindsight, but they do have a very, very good side, and they're on a really, really good run. And I think they'll go on to win it. If you had to ask me now, if I was a gambling man, I would say Winslow will go on to win it this year. And yeah, fair play to them if they do. But we've still got to play them at home, so hopefully we can get another chance of taking some points off from them. But yeah, they're two really good sides. Really good sides.
Okay, let's leave Buckingham just for a little bit, Scott. So let's sort of look at you as a guy, yeah, right, as a man. So growing up, Scott, well, you've already given it away, really. Boyhood club. If you want to raise the mug again, just to show everyone, this is his club.
Doing us through and through.
So it's going to be interesting to see your answer now. So who, for you, has been your favourite football player of all time? You could only pick one player. Who would you choose?
Well, I was a goalkeeper growing up, mate, and not a very brilliant one, if I'm honest. Didn't play the highest level of football myself and got into coaching at an early age. Those that can't do, teach and all that sort of thing. But my favourite player at Arsenal growing up was David Seaman. He was
absolutely
boyhood hero. My Arsenal connection come from my dad and all that sort of stuff. So went and watched a few games at the Old Highbury and been to the Emirates with him and the Legends Tour and done various other things together, which has been brilliant when I can, outside of my own football commitments. But yeah, David Seaman was always the sort of the goalkeeper that I enjoyed watching, the player that I enjoyed watching, and now we've got Aaron Ramsdale in there. I think he's sort of quite similar in many ways, or maybe maybe the closest thing we've had since in terms of English goalkeeper and all that sort of thing. So yeah, that's where it started for me, mate.
Okay, cool. I like that. So let's look at, you've already sort of touched on it really. It's obviously playing as a goalkeeper, Scott. So your playing career, talk us through it. Where have you played?
Yeah, not very much to tell you really. I mean, I was a goalkeeper up until about the age of 21, 22. Flirted around the local clubs. I actually played for Buckingham Athletic for a period of time in the youth team. In the first.
Just commented from Risborough Rangers saying up the Athletic there. Look at that.
Quality.
Up the arse. Sorry, Scott.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it will be if it's Sturgis. It will be Arsenal, I'm sure.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah. Played at Buckingham Town. Played at Buckingham Athletic, and then. I played obviously like college football and stuff like that, but I just found a real buzz for coaching at a really early age. And when I was living in Grendon Underwood at the time, the first team manager in the North Bucks League, it was back in that day, a man called Ian Leslie, I've got a lot of respect for, decided that managing a village football team was no longer for him. I was working in schools and colleges and going through my coaching badges at the age of, I think I was 21, 22 then, and helping with training on a Wednesday night, as well as playing the odd game for them here and there. And just ended up taking the team on. The chairman at the time, who in fact still is the chairman, Paul Jackman of that football club, asked me if I would take it on, and decided that I wanted to give it a go. So I started out there, and we were successful in the North Bucks Premier Division. We finished runners-up, which enabled the club to apply for promotion to the South Midlands Division 2, which obviously is still the same format. Which is where the sort of non-league stuff kind of got going, I guess, a bit more. There was a few more serious games in that league and some bigger cup fixtures and stuff, which gave me the appetite and the recognition that I wanted to try and make something out of the non-league game if possible, and carried on the management and the coaching journey since then.
So how old was you, Scott, then at that point?
21, I think.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I just passed my UEFA B licence at that age. I was working in.
Wow.
Yeah, I was working in schools and colleges full-time, coaching kids and football academy students, when the football academies that are around now, the education academies are everywhere. But even back then, there was one or two dotted around, and I did a bit of college coaching for the Oxford and Cherwell Valley College, and did my B licence through the Oxfordshire FA, did some coaching with Oxford City and another couple of non-league decent clubs to build up all my portfolio of evidence, and obviously passed that course. But yeah, I was 21 when I started managing. That's over 10 years ago now.
Wow, impressive. So obviously, as you said, you mentioned obviously Grendon to start off with, and I know obviously we were chatting not that long ago today, funnily enough, So some other clubs, obviously, some great non-league clubs. Obviously Winslow, Leighton, and obviously Aylesbury FC, as they
Yeah.
obviously what has been for you so far, do you think, your biggest achievement?
There's two
That's
standouts.
a very open question, Scott. But
No. There's two standouts for me. The obvious one was the sort of the FA Vars quarter final whilst I was manager with Leighton Town.
yeah,
I was at the club for 2 years as manager. I started there as an assistant manager to Paul Burgess. Paul unfortunately got removed from his position in, I think it was the October of the first season, and the chairman asked me to take over, which I agreed to do and happily at the time. We turned the first team around from relegation strugglers, having just been relegated out of the South Midlands League, the Southern League, down into the South Midlands Premier Division. It looked like we could be on the back of back-to-back relegations. So we managed to steady the ship and have a reasonably strong second half to my first season there. And then the second season just went from strength to strength. We got so many better players in, pulled on a lot of strings and got a lot of better players to come into the club. And the crowds were going up. The results were more consistent. We were third in the league for most of the season, chasing Welling and Burco, but we never got close to them because we were always in this FA Vars run. So we got to the last 8. Unfortunately, lost at home to 1874 Northwich, 1-0. If we'd have won that game, we'd have gone on to play Thatcham in the semi-final, who won the FA Vars that year. So that was really unfortunate to lose that game at home. But then my second biggest achievement, I'd say, or possibly even bigger, was landing a Step 4 job at the age of 30. I wasn't at Aylesbury FC for very long. Most people will know that. That was my personal choice. I resigned in, I think it was November, due to some unforeseen changes in my personal life at that point that needed me to step away from football.
that's very honest, Scott.
Yeah, I was 30 years old, managing at Step 4 in the Southern League against clubs like Bromsgrove and all these big clubs that have gone on, the Russian and Diamonds and the Aylesbury Uniteds and all the big clubs in the area. And for me, at the age of 30, to be stood in the dugout at that level was massive. We weren't the best Aylesbury FC side that there has ever been, far from it in many people's opinion. But I personally, for me, to get to Step 4 at that age was massive. And at that point in my life and my football, I wanted that to continue and still do in many ways. So reaching that level with only that number of management years behind me, I think is probably my biggest achievement.
Okay. So, what are your likes and dislikes of managing in non-league football?
Well, the job doesn't get any easier. That's the first thing I'd like to make clear, in my opinion. Obviously, the higher up the ladder you go, the more resources you're provided with as a manager to try and attract players to your team, and all those sorts of things. So,
limited, Scott, as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Depending on which club, you can have restrictions put on you as well.
Yeah, definitely. But I think the modern day footballer isn't as committed as maybe a few years ago, and I think the clubs that have got those committed players and those sort of senior players around generally tend to be the ones that are more successful. So there is more to life than playing football, especially at our level at Step 6. There's a lot of other things for people to do on the weekend and in their evenings as well. So that makes the job quite tough. I mean, our team sheet at Buckingham is very, very different. Not every week, but there's a lot of changes. Some for the better, and some not so. But it is difficult to get lads' commitments, especially when everybody came out of the lockdowns and stuff like that, not having had football for so long. Getting back into that routine of Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, or whatever your expectations were, was quite a challenge for some, and for others still is. But yeah, that makes it difficult sometimes. But I mean, there's lots of pluses. None of us would be giving up our time to do it if we didn't love it and really enjoy it. And the friendships you make, the connections you have with people. You haven't got to go far as a non-league football person to bump into someone and you can end up chatting for ages. I'm lucky my dad still comes and watches my football now, although I'm the manager. That's a big thing for me, and my granddad, bless him as well, he's there most weeks and stuff. So they're two of the personal highlights that I enjoy each week. But as a manager, you only get a little while, don't you? After 5 o'clock on a Saturday, if you've secured 3 points, you get about half an hour's fun over the first pint in the clubhouse, and then the stress begins again for the next game. So
yeah. I liked Seffi's comment. I don't know if you've seen it, Scott. Obviously, Seffi from Risborough. Dealing with players. ... Hard work.
I'd love to find out as the answer to a stat how many players actually go on to become non-league managers. Not many. Not many.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
It would be actually interesting to know that. Yeah. So I saw some comments not long ago. So it's time to talk about them because they're all watching. They're all wanting to get a mention. So let's talk about the Blue Army, the backroom team of yours, Scott. Who are they, and what are their roles at the club?
Well, they are very important to me. That's the first thing. Every single one of them, and a manager is nothing without his players, obviously, most importantly, but his backroom team. It's important for me. I've recognised over the years that you get people in that you can trust and can do a good job and share the same beliefs as you in your footballing sense as well. So my assistant manager at Buckingham is Ryan Girton. Ryan and we did our B licence together all those years ago, and Ryan and I used to work together at Ignite Sport UK, it's now called, but it was Premier Sports Group prior to that. So I've known him a long time. He's my assistant manager, another B licensed coach. He works full time for a football academy based in Bicester. So we've been able to pull on quite a few of his contacts as well to get some players in from the academy to come and join us at Buckingham. Typically, sort of young lads that are looking to make their way into the non-league scene. We've also got a coach sort of / physio called Samir Amadou. Samir joined us in the summer months, having had some time previously with Dunstable and one or two other clubs, ex-military. So he takes over a lot of the fitness side of the training and stuff like that, particularly in the pre-season and the dark, cold Tuesday nights. So yeah, Samir is really important. He does, like I say, a lot of the physio stuff as well as a bit of football coaching. And again, he's in football. He works as a freelance football coach. So he knows a lot of players and has got a lot of good contacts. And then the club have got a kit manager. So Spike Marsden, Kevin, he's great. He does everything really with the kit and the equipment. I wouldn't do it if I was dragging kit bags across Hertfordshire and bags of footballs every week. I know that much. And he seems to enjoy part of that stuff and plays a vital role. So he represents all three teams at the club, to be honest. He gets everything ready for whoever's playing at home, and he travels with the first team on away days, which is great. And then, unfortunately for Carl Resch, who I signed, was one of my players at Leighton Town a few years ago. Managed to convince him to come to Buckingham this year to captain the side. He's had a horrendous season with injury. He split his head open in a game early in the season and had weeks and weeks out, and ended up having his head stitched back together. It was horrific. He got through that, and then he dislocated his shoulder in the game at Ampthill, and he's just had his fourth operation in 7 years, I think he told me it was, on his shoulders, which means his season's come to an early end. So Reshi stepped up on the coaching side as well. So there's four of us really on the touchline on a Saturday, running the first team at Buckingham.
What's the sort of, in terms of the human relationship between you all? Obviously, try and keep it clean, but how does it all sort of work between you? Because you're all very different personalities, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, we're all football people first and foremost. Ryan and Samir, as I said, they're both working football full time. I mean, I used to, but not anymore. So we all share the love of the game, and we've all got contacts and whatever within non-league, and also higher up the chain as well. We all know a lot of managers and coaches higher up the ladder. But first and foremost, at our level, we're friends. And as a manager, you need people that you can trust, and when things aren't going well, you need people that have got your back and stuff like that. I've learned a lot of that over the years, so it's really important for me personally that the people that I have beside me and working with me are friends, also understand football and can give a good contribution on a football level, and can get immediate respect from the players as well. I think as a manager, you have to be, in any walk of life, you have to be a good delegator. You've got to get people that are good at certain jobs as well. I mean, I come from a coaching background, but I don't coach every day. I don't work in football, whereas Ryan, my assistant in particular, does. So if I need to turn to him to take the whole of training or most of training and pre-match warm-ups and stuff, it just comes second nature. So it works really, really well, and leaves me to sort of oversee and step in when I feel necessary.
Cool. That's the sort of football aspect, Scott. So you have to pardon me for asking this, because obviously, depending on sometimes the size of the club, the location of the club, what step they're playing at.
Yep.
So even though you're manager, are there still sort of off the field club matters that you do get involved in?
I try not to. I mean,
Okay.
I try not to. Obviously, the club have got a really hard-working committee behind the scenes that look
Yeah.
at the day-to-day, the running of the club, the running of the social club, and all of the sort of planning and fixture organising and all of that stuff. There's 2 or 3 people that work around the clock down at Buckingham to make things happen. And like all clubs and small clubs, they just wouldn't function without those people. So massive respect and time for all those that give up their time. But yeah, I try to just manage the football. I mean, I'm a pretty busy guy. Work pretty intense at certain times of the year. If I've learned as well, you can let football take over your life if you're not careful. So you do need to keep an arm's distance and only control what you can control at the end of the day. My job is obviously to put a team on the pitch, a competitive team on the pitch, and ultimately to try and get Buckingham Athletic into the Premier Division. That's why I came to the club, and that's where my personal focus needs to be. Now, there's always things that you get involved in by accident, or you feel that you want to share an experience or an opinion with somebody at the club, but I kind of allow and always want to allow the committee to run that sort of side of it, and allow me to run the football side of it. And as long as there's not too many crossovers, then I think that's the best way to go about it, mate.
Yeah, and that's why the committees are there in the first place, aren't they? And always have been, down the years. So as long as they do their job, it should mean the manager can get on with the football.
Yeah.
So your sort of club objectives this season, because obviously you haven't been at Buckingham that long. So when you obviously took the job on, Scott, what was in your mind in terms of what did you want to achieve this season?
I mean, I've been at Buckingham 2 years now, but obviously the first season was affected by COVID, so we only played 11 league games. And for, I think, 5 or 6 of those 11, we were top of the league. We had a little wobble where we lost 3 on the spin just before we went into lockdown, which meant we dropped down to like 5th in the league, which is where we finished once the government had decided and the FA decided that football was no more. But my honest intention at coming into Buckingham, when Tony Checkley, the chairman, and I had a chat about it, was to try and get Buckingham promoted to the Premier Division. I mean, I've managed at step 5 successfully. I've managed at step 4. And the appeal to manage a mid-table step 6 team wasn't, and to be honest, still isn't even there. I want to get Buckingham promoted. I think I can get Buckingham promoted with the right level of support and everything behind me. But there's a lot of teams this year trying to go for the same things. We don't have a playing budget. We're not financially rewarding any of the players, which does make it difficult to try and pull better players and keep a consistent team on the pitch. But we've had to tackle it in other ways and promote some of the better youngsters within the club immediately into the first team to give us a short and long-term plan. But yeah, I still think if we, like I said earlier, if we can win the majority of those last 14 games, then we might have a chance this year. But yeah, personally speaking, the ambition was always to try and get Buckingham promoted up to the Premier Division and get them into the FA Cup for the first time in the club's history. Never done that before, still haven't. So if we can manage that as well in my time at the club moving forward, then that would be amazing.
Cool. And we didn't mention it earlier. What is the sort of average age of the squad at Buckingham this season?
Early 20s. We've got 1 or 2 players in the squad that are, well, Carl Tappin, that's played football for Christ knows how long, how many years. He only turned 26 the other day, and I thought he was about 30. But he's played for me various different clubs for 4 or 5 years now. So he's one of our older players. We've got 2 or 3 others a little bit older than Tap. So you've got Chris Parr, who's our skipper. He's in his 30s. Nick Benyon, our goalkeeper's in his 30s, but he's out for the rest of the season with a bad injury, unfortunately. We've had a friend of mine who played for me at Aylesbury FC, and I know from a short period when I was coaching at Ardley, called Luke Cray. He's played for them 16 games this season, but that was on the back of a 2-game promise. He promised me 2 games when Reshi split his head open back in September, and 2's turned into 16. Unfortunately, it looks like it's only going to be 16 because he's got other things going on in his life. But yeah, the rest of the squad is really, really young. We've used, I think, about 8 different under-18s players this year in the first team.
That's impressive.
Yeah,
it's really impressive.
it's important to the club and it's important to me. Some of it was circumstance-led early in the season, I will be honest, where we got players out through injuries, players unavailable, and obviously we were looking within the club to fulfil those positions. But the lads that have stepped in have done a brilliant job. I mean, we were winning a lot of games at the start of the season with a lot of youngsters in the team. So I've never been fazed by playing young players. If they're good enough, they're old enough. And some of them certainly are. Ollie Power and Joel Marklove have been the two that have stood out. And are still sort of two of the first names on the team sheet and certainly in the squad to now, although we've got a lot more sort of stronger players and numbers present. But yeah, we've got a really young side. I'd say the average age, to answer your question, is probably about 22, 23.
So what challenges come with that, Scott? So obviously, because you mentioned, obviously managing step 4 for a brief period with Aylesbury FC, you'd obviously managed in step 5. Step 6, having sometimes quite a large number of players, 18, 19, 17 years old. What challenges have you come across with that?
You rely more on your senior players because the ones that you have got, you need them to really step up, because ultimately once the lads cross the white line and leave the dressing room and all those things, there's very little the manager you can affect. And you need the senior players on the pitch to take responsibility for some, particularly when the situations get difficult. And some of our senior players have been great at that this year. They've really helped the youngsters progress and learn. And to be honest, I've always said to the under-18s coming in that there's no pressure on them. I'm not expecting, although Ollie Power, who we've mentioned tonight a few times, is our current joint top goal scorer, I don't expect him to score. I don't put any pressure on him to score. I expect him to work hard and play well and deliver what he's capable of doing. And if he scores goals, then for us as a team, they should come as a bonus. Saturday, for example, we scored our only goal, which was vital. But I can't go into games demanding from him that he's consistently scoring goals, or the lads at the back are consistently keeping clean sheets. Would just be unfair and unrealistic of me. They'll have good games and they'll have bad games, but as long as they're there every week, they want to train, they want to learn, they want to improve and commit fully, then I'm happy with that. The biggest challenge this year with the number of young players that we have been using is that they play so many games. They train Monday nights for the youth team. They play or train with us on a Tuesday. They'll be playing an under-18s fixture on the Thursday. Some of them play college football on a Wednesday, and then we get them at the end of the week and hope they're not too tired or carrying any injuries, because they've got to play for the first team on the Saturday. So that's made it a challenge. And we've had to manage that carefully. We've had to monitor that and make tough decisions sometimes, because even though they might be playing regularly up to it, I've left them out on a couple of occasions and they've probably wondered why. And you've just got to manage their workloads so they don't pick up injuries or long-term problems in the future. So that's been a challenge. But we've got the resources we've got, and a lot of those players have had to play a lot of the games. So that will probably continue, and they're learning all the time and becoming better players all the time for it.
Yeah, nice. I like that. So I know obviously Buckingham aren't obviously in the Berkshire and Buckinghamshire Cup, obviously going into the quarterfinals, but obviously being a local guy and seeing the cup draws come out, and obviously having Long Crendon obviously playing in the same league as Buckingham, I mean, what did you think when you saw that cup draw, them coming out playing Wycombe Wanderers?
Well, to be honest, the first thing I had was the jealousy. I'd love to be involved in a game like that. It's a really weird one, the Bucks and Bucks, because I'm quite opinionated as a manager, to be honest. And earlier in the season, when the Bucks and Bucks was restructured in the format that it is, I remember saying to our secretary and a few people at the club, "What's the point?" I was like, there's no chance of a Buckingham Athletic or a Winslow United or a local Step 6 side doing anything in this cup competition. None of us are going to win it because there's so many bigger level clubs coming in later rounds. And then our first draw, we got Aylesbury Dynamos at home, which we won actually on penalties. We drew 2-2 and beat them in the shootout, which was nice. Obviously, local game and former club and all of that. And then they sent us away to Wallingford on a Tuesday night, and we'd got like 13, 14 players available. 2 or 3 were, as I say, like played the night before for the youth team, and it was just, we felt like we were on a hide into nothing. We lost the game. We lost the game 1-0, and in truth, we were quite happy to be out of the cup competition. And then obviously, like a few rounds go on, and you see Long Crendon draw Wycombe Wanderers, and you think, "Oh, damn it! What an opportunity that would have been for a club like Buckingham and in your case, Long Crendon, to get that fixture. So, yeah, huge jealousy, and it's what a fantastic opportunity for the players and everybody involved at Long Crendon to give their best against one of the best in the area.
So you have to remind me, are you hoping to be there next Tuesday?
Yes. Me and a few friends have got tickets. So, yeah, definitely coming Tuesday next week, mate. Yeah.
Love that. So that's non-league all over. Supporting local clubs, supporting local managers. Love that, Scott. So let's finish off. We have to look at it, and it's weird because usually we'd be talking about Saturday, but as you already said, the boys haven't got a game now for another 10 days. Obviously you're back on the road. So
yeah.
What are you going to do in that time frame, Scott?
Oh, to be honest, it's been an absolute nightmare. It's been so stop-start for so long now with the weather. We had a game called off because of COVID a few weeks ago. We had a few players missing. Saturday just gone, the game we did have, 2 with COVID and a few with injuries. It just feels like there's no momentum behind our season at all. And obviously, with another weekend coming up with no league fixture, it's made it difficult. We've arranged to train on Saturday. Those that are available to train, we've got a couple out, like I say, with injuries and isolating, and there's 2 or 3 members in our squad that are teachers, and 2 of them work together, and they're away on a school ski trip or something. But we're going to get together with our under-18s on Saturday and train in the afternoon whilst our development team play at home, and then we've got a bit of a social thing planned that couldn't happen at Christmas time because of all the COVID pressures around the Christmas dates. So yeah, we're just using this weekend as that. So we'll train, we'll have a bit of a social afternoon together, and then we'll be in for training again next week before we go to Chester away on the 19th.
Cool. And obviously going into that game again, are you feeling pretty confident of coming back with the W, Scott?
I mean, you can't look at the league table at the moment because I know they are down the bottom and obviously not had the best season, but they've had a recent change.
But they had a good result recently.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say they won Saturday. I spoke to their new manager last week because, as you alluded to, with the coming over to Long Crendon to watch that game, all managers talk and we all communicate. So I spoke to them, and I know they've signed about 20 players in the last few weeks, so their team will be completely changed from when we beat them at home. But yeah, I mean, if we do what we're good at and we play to our standards, then I'd expect us to go there and win, and hopefully that'll be the start of a run of wins for us and climb up the table.
Cool. And I best plug this because it's come up more than once, Scott, how people are loving the Athletic match day Twitter feeds. So we need to big that up. All those concerned.
Well, on that, I'll just mention young Cameron Lissamore. Cameron is, well, forgive me, Cameron, if I get this wrong, but I think 15 years old. And him and his dad Ian used to follow. He used to follow me really when I was manager at Leighton. They're great friends with Dale James from Sports Shots, but they've been Buckingham people and Buckingham Athletic fans for years. And when I took over the club, the social media exposure was on a real sort of low level. The chairman, Tony, bless him, was trying to do that on a match day as well as run the bar and do everything else, you know. And I just said to Cameron that, why don't you take it over? You're always on your phone. You're always at games. And he loves it. He's home and away, him and his few friends. We even had some support and some singing away at Kidlington a few weeks ago. So Cameron takes full credit for the social media matchday feeds. And I think he's really sort of interested in football journalism and stuff like that in the long term as a possible career pathway. So if this can be the start of something for him, then I'm happy to give him that opportunity. And I know the club are fully behind that as well.
Nice plug, that, Scott. That's quite a nice way to round up. See, manager showing the love for the club, the fans, and everyone obviously associated with the club. Scott, thank you so much, because I know obviously it is midweek. I know we obviously have very, very busy lives in non-league football. And equally, probably some of us haven't even had dinner yet. It's 8:10. But again, thank you so much.
No worries.
Especially for coming back to me when we thought it was off, but obviously we've got it done, and I hope everyone has enjoyed it tonight. So thank you to everyone obviously staying with us or dipping in and out. I'm hoping probably in about an hour's time this will all get uploaded online. So Scott, you can watch it again if you want to, and obviously everyone else can watch it at their leisure. But all the best for the weekend. I hope it goes well. Have some fun as well, Scott, on Saturday, even though there's no competitive game. But hopefully I will bump into you on Tuesday at the Ace Stadium.
Yeah,
a bit of a catch up.
No problem at all.
All right, pleasure. But we'll speak soon, Scott. All right.
Cheers. Take care, mate.
Cheers. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.